Forza Horizon has stood the test of time, showing how a franchise with a great concept and overall business model in a matter of more than 10 years' time can break its niche into a bigger audience. It produced a plethora of events for almost every interest the game could offer. Fantasy DLCs, the addition of being able to feel like you're racing in a festival, and the vibe while playing is part of Horizon's identity. However, the latest installment, Forza Horizon 5, has shown a mixed reaction from players, stating that the game should have greater variety in terms of content, and how the studio responsible for it, Playground Games, could benefit from the fans' opinions about their experience compared to the previous games. Being an open-world game is not a new thing, with games like Need for Speed or Test Drive Unlimited have examples far older than Horizon's release. What sets apart from other games, though, is that Playground Games focused on providing an experience similar to a music festival, with the main thinking being that the festival is mostly oriented around racing, where music is used to go hand in hand with the atmosphere of the game. Some of you might notice that it has a similar concept to Pro Suite, which you'd be absolutely right. It's safe to say that the developer, Dan Greenawald, said himself that they aren't only influenced from racing games, but more from other open-world games like Red Dead Redemption and World of Warcraft. Forza Horizon, though, tries to provide the consumer with a positive feeling by handpicking its soundtrack for its station, specific color palette, showing that its identity can also be found in real life. That means that the player isn't focused on street racing only, but to have a great time while being a participant on its event. It grants the ability to pick any car the player selects and head into anything that its map has to offer, whilst the only limitation that exists is the force of the rocks and trees that exert on stopping the car. This alone is enough for its audience to be on a car festival without needing to move from their seat. Playground Games have indeed broadened the horizons by changing the location of its game in the series. Starting in San Francisco and currently stopping in Mexico doesn't sound that much of a trip for cars to race, but keep in mind that the Horizon Festival has made its appearance in Europe, Australia and the UK respectively. With each county or continent in the Horizon Festival is set on, you can grasp the idea of driving anywhere you want and acquire more information about the place it is set on.
Ah, the Uffington Whitehorse. This thing's incredible. The first prehistoric display of horsepower. One.
It's safe to say that the map itself cannot convince you that everything is influenced by the placement. Cars, music and storyline are some of the key elements that can set its game apart rather than judging it from gameplay alone. Forza Horizon has been experimenting with music from the very first game, starting with a casual approach on EDM, drum and bass and even indie rock, something similar to what most games used to adopt in that era. Laterwards, Horizon 2 had the similar approach, where it will have the addition of national artists since it's based on southern France and Italy, all thanks to Rob the Bank, a tactic that's still used until today as of late 2024. Not only takes genres that work on the previous games, but the next ones have tried maintaining the same formula as 1, 2 and 3 did, although 4 tried to even things out with a storyline and overall atmosphere, and Horizon 5 leaves the listener most of the time lost, where they end up being very selective until they turn the radio off. If for any other reason the studio can acquire any license to form their own soundtrack, whether that would be financial, cultural or any other reasons, they can find other studios to compose music for them, which is more affordable in some cases, but is only effective for a series of cutscenes or any other similar use to that respect. If you count too much from that opportunity, the danger of the game being monotonous could be very much present. Another main reason developers and publishers alike need to be very careful on is the type of product that they want to present. If a game is rated at PEGI 3 for example, it is obvious that a lot of songs need to have the lyrics censored just to satisfy the rating it wants to have. Obviously, a strategy in this form doesn't appeal to everyone, even though a game can get very known for its soundtrack, whether it's good or bad, there are other things that everyone prefers to see implemented. Having an open-world game as your project is not an easy task to develop. Not any type of game is easy to develop really. During that stage though, for a company as big as our example, you need to utilize whatever resources are available for the team to use and collect all the information it can so the final product can get as close as possible to the initial expectations. Of course, that doesn't mean a studio must reinvent the wheel on every installment, mainly because you can run out of ideas pretty easily when coming up with the next product. Another reason is strict deadlines, which are set most of the time in specific games like FIFA, Formula 1 or any other game that has a yearly release date, and as you can notice, they have slight changes compared to their predecessors. If both of these factors are combined and asked to make a fabulous game each year, it is most likely that people working for you won't really handle it for a very long time. The perfect case study for this is the story of Black Box during the development of Need for Speed games in the early 2000s. With constant pressure from publisher and had the ability to form direct success of its game until Need for Speed Carbon, it was a matter of time until Black Box ran out of ideas for street racing and changed the direction of the products up to the latest Need for Speed game, The Run. As I am closing this parenthesis with that case study, its game, let's say, seems to be on a constant opportunity cost tactic. Seeing from only the latest 3 games, the fourth could be described as the tipping point in terms of story, music and development, but lacks a serious amount of simple key points that could make it an unforgettable experience, such as the preposterous loading times when playing online, and the online experience as a whole. Most people that have the Horizon games for far longer than me believe that 3 is the tipping point, although I can't say that they are wrong from that little time that I played. Maybe I am simply influenced because 4 was the first Horizon game I played, and when I went back on Horizon 3 and realized how many things it's been missing from the next one. In the 5th game, on the other hand, there's a noticeable progress on the story cycle compared to the 4th, but the game now features a more controller-friendly support, upgraded graphical fidelity in almost every aspect, as well as the sound department that everyone was so patient to try out. All of these features came at the cost of creating the map around the idea that the Eliminator would be one of the main customer segments, which turned out to backfire at the time by a big margin. Even though the map is large enough for you to launch him out of your own wheel at any time, it lacks the narrowness and activity all the previous games had, while also having a regular active basis on the specific game mode. You can obviously try the Eliminator at any time and don't have to wait for that long, since you can find players pretty easily. The question is, for how long are you going to play that game mode until you want to try the other things the game provides you? As mentioned from John Carmack, a story in the game needs to be there, but it's not that important. Even though the game tries to have a specific objective, this can easily be left behind in favor of other add-ons, such as a new game mode like Hide and Seek, the Eliminator as mentioned previously, or even the game itself taking a completely different turn in order to satisfy the players and studios alike. Specifically, a new idea can indeed be very interesting and have a great return in financial figures, as well as a pleasing player base, but a risky decision like that could not be executed as expected or fulfill the expectations. For a game to stay relevant in the safest way possible is by maintaining the main concept of what is the norm in the gaming industry and adjusting along the way after every game on the series or the studio as a whole. In Horizon's case, the goal of the player in Horizon 1 was the typical of starting low and with steady progress climb to the top, whereas its sequel maintains the idea until you finish the game. This is the point where the series doesn't rely on this concept and simply consider this player as a very known racer across the festival, the boss of the festival if you will, or an already known superstar, ready to let the story of the festival known on every nation of the world. In combination with the gameplay, this can make the product have an average run of around 5 to 6 years, or be a total flop and only have a cult following. Examples of League of Legends having such a loyal fanbase and having such a long run isn't because of how the story is presented, but the completely different business model. In pure honesty, no one wants to play the same game for the rest of their life. Players will wait for the next update which can provide some fresh share on the product, or they will try to do it themselves. They will try out the older games to see what they missed on or get back on forgotten memories, or adjust the game to their own liking with mods, something that happens almost everywhere. So, what is the final verdict, you ask? What have you learned from this video and how will this information be useful to you? I can safely say that Forza Horizon is indeed an amazing series for racing fans, since I have spent many hours playing both 4 and 5, and have a general idea of how the experience is up to a point. However though, time flies and companies cannot support their games for a long time due to licensing, low interest rates and not being able to financially support it. Forza Horizon 5 is indeed the exit strategy for the series by showing you that if you want to have the full experience and brand new innovations that the previous installment lacked, you have better luck buying 5. If you are brave enough though to start a new adventure on a dated game with limited support and now that it has completed its purpose from playground games, it's better for you to start playing Forza Horizon 4 because your time is quite limited to have it in your hands.